Item SCP-214-CA. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-214-CA is to be housed in a standard humanoid entity housing cell inside K. The chamber may be furnished to the subject's liking, within reason, and the subject provided with a regular rotation of reading material. Once every 2 weeks, SCP-214-CA is permitted to leave the facility to drive on a designated route, traveling down the interstate before looping back to the facility. The vehicle used must be a specifically modified Freightliner semi-truck with brakes that can be remotely activated, overriding the driver's control, and a small yield explosive placed on the engine's fuel intake. 2 armed personnel must accompany SCP-214 at all times within the cab. Any deviation from the provided route will be responded to by activating the brakes, with the explosive used only as a last resort. Any attempts by SCP-214-CA to leave the vehicle or injure the escorts will be responded to with tranquilizers. At 2200 hours on February 13th of each year, SCP-214-CA is to be moved to a sealed underground bunker composed of 1 meter thick steel plates, accessible only through a hatch on the ceiling with collapsing ladder. Once inside, its arms and legs are to be bound with heavy-duty chains, bolted securely to the wall, leaving no slack, and administered with an intravenous drip of sedatives of sufficient supply to last for 28 hours. Subject may be returned to its normal containment chamber after 200 hours on February 15th. Description: SCP-214-CA is a large-bodied human, apparently middle-aged, with significant amounts of facial hair. It is generally cooperative and friendly towards Foundation staff. SCP-214-CA professes a desire for lovin' and truckin' above all else. The first desire can be fulfilled by regularly reading romance novels. This seems to be enough to satisfy it, as it has not shown any significant sex drive. And providing romantic advice to other people, most often the staff conducting interviews or maintaining its chamber. This advice is nearly always unprompted and displays unusually accurate knowledge of the recipient's love life. Subject has a tendency to speak with trucker vernacular, and despite most staff being unfamiliar with the terminology used by SCP-214-CA, they seem to understand its intended meaning perfectly. Following the advice given has, in every recorded case, demonstrably increased the level of satisfaction with the relationship on the part of all parties involved. The second is filled by permitting it to drive a truck outside at highway speeds on a regular basis. Failure to fulfill both of these desires results in the subject becoming increasingly agitated. This typically manifests as mild forms of anxiety, but if left unchecked can quickly escalate to physical symptoms, including uncontrollable shaking, excessive sweating, or fever. After approximately 20 days without access to both reading material and its truck, SCP-214-CA will enter a rage state and begin single-mindedly attempting to reach the nearest large vehicle, ignoring all people it encounters along the way. During this state, the subject's strength increases by a significant factor, enabling it to punch through solid steel walls and doors with little difficulty. This seems to cause no injury to SCP-214-CA. The rage state ends only once the subject has driven any vehicle larger than a passenger automobile for approximately 1 hour. Tranquilizers have also proven effective at ending the rage state, but once they wear off, the state will immediately resume. The amount of tranquilizers required to suppress the rage state increases at a steady but high rate over time, and after Incident 214-X3, it was determined that regular allowances for SCP-214-CA to drive on an open road would be a more economical method of suppressing this state. On February 14th of each year, the subject will enter an enhanced version of the rage state, regardless of how recently it has been allowed to drive. This state grants strength in excess even of its normal rage state. In addition, any vehicle operated will have its rate of acceleration increased by a factor of 5, and its top speed will be doubled. If allowed to exceed kilometers per hour, subject's truck will enter a warp drive state, allowing it to travel distances of up to kilometers in less than a second, passing through any physical obstacles that may be in its path. However, no matter how much the subject tries, they will not be able to reach the destination of Norway.